Hello, my friends. A couple of days ago, I pulled out one of my most loved original Birkin bags purely because I felt bad that it hadn't seen the light of day in quite a while. And now that it did, it's time for it to go back into my wardrobe. Not because there's anything wrong with it. I just don't think I'm that much of a Birkin guy anymore. But since we're already here, I thought this would be the perfect chance for me to share with you how I care for and store my most valued designer bags. So if you'd like to hear my tips, some of which I picked up from Hermes craftsmen and experts over the years, and see my process up close and personal, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and keep on watching. First things first, we have to empty our bags. Now, this is quite easy for me because I do use an insert in most of my bags. The only thing that gives me a hard time is my agenda, just because it is huge. I personally love an oversized calendar. I have some fancier ones from Hermes and Dior, but this is the one that I always go back to. This brand makes my favorite journals, agendas, whatever you call them. And then everything else is going to be inside my insert, which if you've been with me for a while, you already know this, but I am a big fan of 7RP inserts, which I know they are insanely expensive. But when it comes to an investment bag like a Birkin or a Kelly, I do think that putting a little bit more money into your bag, quite literally, and into your inserts goes a long way. When it comes to 7RP inserts, they not only help to protect your bags on the inside, which, by the way, the lining is one of the only things on an Hermes bag that the SPA is not willing to work on, but they also have to give your bags just the right amount of support, which you will see in a second. And they also have to organize your bags. They feature a ton of really useful pockets. So this is quickly turning into what's in my bag. But as you can see on these inserts, there is a pocket and a compartment for every single thing that you could possibly need. Now, obviously, 7RP inserts are quite expensive, and at one point I did have a discount code with 7RP, which is no longer active. But since I'm talking about them now, I will reach out to them and see if they can offer me another one. If they can give me a discount code for now, I will make sure to put it up on the screen here. So if you're interested in trying one, this might be the perfect chance to do it. But here I'm just sharing with you everything that I carry in my bag, including one of my favorite things, my Bolide pouch, which I always carry with me. It just has things like medicine, band-aids, hand sanitizer, just all the essentials that you never want to be without. And as you can see, I continue going because there's genuinely a pocket for everything in these inserts. So I will ask if there's a discount code that they could give me, because I understand that they are quite expensive. But if you are looking to invest in your collection, if you're trying to make sure that your bags last a really long time, these inserts can genuinely help, not only to protect your bags on the inside and make sure that the lining doesn't get damaged, they can also help to enhance the overall user experience and give your bags the right amount of support. And my favorite feature on these inserts, other than what they're able to do for your bags, is actually the band on the outside, which was specifically designed to hold your passport when it comes to traveling, which honestly, it is a genius idea, but I actually use it much more often to hold my phone. Once we have removed everything from the inside of our bags, it's time to take everything off on the outside too. So if you have rodeos on your bags, if you wrap your handles in twillies, it's time to take those off now. Here I am removing my clochette, which, yes, I have most of my Hermes clochettes monogrammed with either my full initials, which are G.P.S, or just my first initial, and all of these are going to be going in their own dust bags. One thing that you want to avoid is putting these back in your bag, so you do not want to put them in the back or the front pocket of your Birkin and Kelly bags. And speaking of Kelly bags, if you're looking after a Kelly, you also want to take off the strap to wrap it up nicely and put it in its own dust bag. Here I'm showing you one way of keeping track of your clochette, so you can have the dust bag wrapped around your handles, but personally I would just put it in my insert later on. And we're getting serious when I put on my glasses. But next up, we're going to be moving on to cleaning our bags, which, believe it or not, all I use to clean my bags at home is a clean, dry, soft microfiber cloth. And I do have these incredibly plush, fancy microfiber cloth from Chanel, but you don't need ones from Chanel. I just happen to have these from my days of buying Chanel bags. You can use any undyed, untreated, preferably white microfiber cloth, because you want to avoid any sort of color transfer or the potential for color bleeding onto your bags. And other than this, I will not use anything else. When it comes to some of my more hardy leathers, so grain skins like Togo or stamped leathers like Epsom, sometimes I will use a drop of water, but that's it. I won't use anything else, and I will certainly not go anywhere near my heritage pieces or my pieces made of exotic skins with any sort of moisture or any sort of liquid, and I wouldn't recommend that you do either. Now, when it comes to leather moisturizers, leather cleansers, leather balms, I'm not saying that there aren't some amazing products out there, but I will personally not use anything on my Hermes bags unless I was advised directly by Hermes to do so, just because if something goes wrong and I want to take my bag back to Hermes and the craftsman realized that something had been done to the bag outside of Hermes, the bag had been tampered with, if there's a product that they're not familiar with, they can potentially refuse servicing your bag because they don't know what the outcome is going to look like. And at that point, there's nothing you can do. So for me, I just don't think it is worth the risk. I would rather leave the heavy lifting to the experts, to the craftsmen. I will not do anything other than gently wiping off my bags. I know that some people are big fans of massaging their bags, and if there's a cuff or a mark, they will try to fix it at home. I would not recommend that, and I'm showing you here why, because there are a couple of little marks on my box, Constance, which I actually did more damage than good when I tried to massage them out. You can leave little fibers from the microfiber cloth behind that get stuck between the scratches and the marks that will only make them look obvious, which is exactly what happened here. So don't do any massaging, just gently wipe off your bags. And if there's anything else that needs to be repaired, please take your bag back to where you got it from. If it's an Hermes bag, take it back to Hermes. If it's a Chanel bag, take it back to Chanel, and so on. If you take decent care of your bags, this should do the trick. Just use a microfiber cloth and a drop of water when it comes to textured leathers. But again, do not go near your exotic or heritage leather bags with any sort of water or moisture. This particular bag I've had for years and years and years, and the only two things that need fixing or that could use a little bit of attention is two marks on the back of my bag from having the bag overstuffed with my MacBook and my heavy MacBook leaning against the back pocket. And now you can see the outline of the back pocket, and then there is a tiny bit of grease being released from the leather itself, which actually I had a craftsman look at once. They were able to get rid of it and clean it up nicely for me, but it did come back. So other than that, this bag is in immaculate condition, and it's something that I did use consistently for years, and I have never done anything else to it other than what I am showing you here. And now that the outside is looking all fresh and new, it's time to clean the inside of our bags, which I have to be honest, there's really not much that I need to do here because I do use an insert which collects all the dust and all the potential dirt, which is so important to look after because the one detail on your bag that Hermes is not able to service for you is the lining. So using an insert is incredibly important in my opinion. But if you don't use an insert in your bags, you can take a lint roller and just nicely wipe your bag down on the inside, or I will sometimes take the same microfiber cloth that I used on the outside of my bag, and that's really all I need to do other than double checking to make sure that there isn't anything left in either one of the pockets. Arguably the most beneficial thing that you can do for your bags long term is stuffing them when you're not using your bags. It's incredibly important in my opinion to stuff your bags and support their structures from the inside out when they're not being used. I think this will make the biggest difference long term. Now, when it comes to the right stuffing materials, a couple of things that you could use that is pretty easy to get hold of is bubble wrap. It's something that Hermes uses themselves. You do not ever want to rely on the air pockets that you get with your Hermes bags when you first buy them, because those do deflate over time. So you can use any sort of bubble wrap, or you can easily use tissue paper. You just want to make sure that the tissue paper you use is acid free and you're not using tissue paper with any writing or any sort of dyes on it. You want to use untreated white tissue paper. You do not want to use newspapers or magazines that have been printed, because those can slowly but surely bleed into your bags. I will personally use the insert in my bags just because I know that these were custom made to fit my bags perfectly, and they do give them the right amount of support from the inside out. And here I am showing you what a difference stuffing your bags makes. So here is my bag without any sort of stuffing. It just looks kind of tired and a lot older. It collapses in on itself. You can see every wrinkle, every line. Compared to it being stuffed with the insert, it just looks a lot fresher and a lot newer, to be honest. So if you do have an insert that was custom made to fit your bag, you can use that as stuffing material. If you only use an organizer that you cannot really rely on for support, you can of course go ahead and use some tissue paper or bubble wrap, but please make sure that you do not overstuff your pieces, because that can actually alter the overall shape. Something that I will no longer do when it comes to storing my bags is use this felt protector, which you get with most of your Hermes bags, unless I'm putting my bags in storage for the foreseeable future, or I am moving or traveling with my bags. If I'm just putting them away for a little while, I will not use these, because there won't be any sort of friction that this felt protector could be useful for. So don't throw them away. Keep them in your bag's boxes or in the dust bag that your bag goes into. But personally, I really don't see any point of putting them on your bags. And finally, I will put my bag in a dust bag, mainly to prevent any dust from settling on my bags. But even more important than that is to shield my bag from any unwanted exposure to sunlight, which can actually dull and even bleach your bags over time. If you don't have the original dust bag anymore, you can always ask Hermes for a spare dust bag, or if you cannot get your hands on a branded dust bag, you can use any sort of pillowcase or any larger bag that's made of a natural fiber, something that's breathable. And you also want to make sure that it doesn't have any print or color that could potentially transfer onto your bag. You might have spotted this in some of my videos, but I actually have some of my, I wouldn't say my most used, but some of my most fundamental bags lined up on a shelf behind me in my wardrobe. Now, one thing that I always have to make sure of is that there is enough room between each one of my bags. You do not want to have your bags stored too close to each other, because you can actually scuff and mark your bags. You can create imprints on the leather, so you always want to make sure that there is plenty of space in between your bags. And the way I have my bags stored isn't ideal, because I do have things sort of touching the handles of my bags. If you can avoid that, please make sure that you do so, because you do not want the handles to be pushed down or bent in any shape or form. So what I will do is I will always make sure that the bags perfectly fall between the things that I have hung above them, because I never want to have anything weighing on top of my bags. And then when it comes to some of my more precious bags that I don't use that often, I will store these bags in their boxes. Especially bags that I don't use that often, pieces that I have in storage, I will just put them in their dedicated boxes. You just want to make sure that you use the original box if you can. If you cannot, just make sure that you use a box that's big enough, and you never again want to have any sort of tissue paper that has any dye that could potentially lead to color transfer. And a pro tip that I can give you, and this is coming from someone who has had to put things in storage before, you want to make sure that you have every single box clearly labeled with a label maker, or that you take actual Polaroid pictures of every single piece and you put those pictures on the outside of each box, just so you have an easier time keeping track of all your bags. And this actually completes today's video. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And I really hope to see you back here with a new video really soon. And in the meantime, you can find me on Instagram and now even on TikTok.